Jesus says we have to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Let me ask you a question. How do we love ourselves?
Well, nobody thinks about that.
I think we love ourselves by not criticizing ourselves all the time
Okay.
and by building ourselves up
Yeah.
about all the good things that we do.
Uh-huh.
Gratefulness builds us up. And I think one of the exercises they have us do is look in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
and say, Jeannie, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other way is through your faith in God, because God loves us so much, so completely. When we believe that and tap into that, how much God loves us exactly as we are, to me it inspires me to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like those lines because I don't really like myself, and so I always, when I heard that line, it always bothered me because it's hard to love somebody else, I guess, that way. But I just feel I'm a failure, and I didn't make what I intended. I thought I should make, and the longer I live, the more mistakes I keep making. So I keep thinking it'd be a blessing if the Lord called me home. So I do have a problem with that. I like your line about looking in the mirror. You should find something good you can say, and maybe if you keep repeating it, maybe it will have an effect.
Jesus says, love God with all of our resolve. That is the only place where the sankalp of ourselves becomes fully effective by way of loving God. In other words, it's our own fullness is getting involved in it. Then he says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So everything begins with we loving ourselves. Everything begins
Right.
with us loving ourselves.
Right.
See, when you take a look at a plant, it gives you flowers, it gives you fragrance, it gives you fruits, it gives you shades, and it kind of brightens up your environment. It does all sorts of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it loving you?
It's making me feel happier.
It is making me feel happier, yes. But is it loving you? Is it because it loves you?
We have to go back to the mystic.
I think so, because it does the same thing whether you're there or not. It's not going to change.
Exactly.
My kids act differently when I'm there, so I think there's some love there. But this plant, it doesn't really care where it's at, as long as it gets maybe nutrients and water.
In other words, we are talking about a sort of an altruism on the part of the tree, isn't it?
Say that again.
An altruism on the part of the tree.
Define altruism.
Yeah, we will. I mean, altruism actually is a selfless giving.
So that
Selfless giving.
Selfless giving, okay.
Without anything, expecting anything in return. A tree doesn't want to give you flowers. It, want you to give them anything, give it anything. That's not what it is. Even the water you give, it's appreciated, but, it doesn't turn around and thank you for it. You know what I mean? And even if you don't, it's fine with.
It doesn't yell at you if you don't.
Yeah. So there is a sort of an altruism flowing in one way, and that's what you attribute that, in what you described, how you described what the tree does to you, isn't it?
So maybe we should all be more like that tree.
Yeah, that's a logical, way of looking at it. But it's a little bit deeper than that. I was reading about a Hindu saint and a philosopher that he says when a human being is altruistic, God is acting through them. About altruism, Jesus says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. See, when the tree is giving you fruits, is the tree aware that he is giving you fruits? It's making your yard looks beautiful. Is it aware that it is doing it? See, as far as tree is concerned, there is only two things that's going on there. Number one, sure, based on what we discussed just now, it is being altruistic. The second thing is it does everything in its power to live life in the fullest. Rain or shine, it wants to live life to the fullest. Whether you cut it, whether you trim it, whether you hurt it, it doesn't complain. It doesn't mean that it doesn't feel the pain. Of course it does. But no matter what you do to him, what you do to the tree, it lives life to the fullest. Does the tree know that, I'm living life to the fullest? Does it have that awareness? The awareness may be there because that's the reason why it feels the pain. It feels the hurt when you trim it and all of that. You see, the awareness of what's going on in the environment, that may be there. But the expectations, the alertness, of what it wants to do, the intellectual, decisions it makes along the way, and it's doing something because it makes me feel good. None of those things exist. And if you think about it, every creature in the universe is like that except human beings. See, every creature in the universe is living an altruistic life and a life to the fullest, except, a man in his knowledge of good and evil. So the life in the fullest and altruism needs to be looked at, from a spiritual perspective. That would tell us how to love ourselves. That would tell us how to be altruistic. That would tell us how to live life to the fullest. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
You know what that Hindu saint said? That when a human being is altruistic, God is manifesting through them. What stands in the way of true altruism is an expectation it's going to make me happy. People are going to compliment me, that makes me happy. You know, my children are going to tell me, Dad, you're great, that's going to make me happy. You know, or maybe I'm doing something righteous, so God is going to be happy. All of these are desires that gives us a purpose for being altruistic, isn't it? So when the purpose for being altruistic is there, that altruism backfires on us. Altruism is good. Altruism without a purpose. That's how the whole universe operates except human beings. Altruism without a motive.
Without what?
Altruism without a motive.
Oh, without a motive.
That's true altruism.
True altruism.
I guess we all think we have it when we do something good.
Yeah.
But
You know, altruism the way God would want us to do, meaning what the right hand is doing, left hand doesn't even know. So, the altruism, the spirituality talks about is altruism in absolute stillness, the quietude of the soul. Altruism in the quietude of the soul. That is what the spirituality, Hinduism, or any religion, Jesus, everybody talks about. See? So what actually is standing in the way of it? What is giving us that happiness? What is giving us that satisfaction? Here we need to be altruistic without even feeling happy about it. You know, there is nothing is going on within us, you know, that is going to raise a purpose for it or a satisfaction for it, you know, or an expectation of some kind of a recognition. It is quietude of the soul to that extent. That's what Jesus is talking about. And that's what the whole universe operates by, except mankind.
well, did mankind ever act that way? Is it?
It
The
can.
world's changed so much when it started out. Was it?
It can, yes. See, that is one of the reasons why when you read Genesis, a logical, you know, a translation to it, you don't see anything that Adam did. You know, Adam by himself, in his own initiative, he went out there and did it. When God told him to do something, he did that. Other than that, you don't read about altruism. See? Many times, you know, even what Jesus did and all of that, he plainly told people, don't talk about it. But the Gospels and things like that were written by people who were apostles of apostles, disciples of apostles.
Right.
So unless the disciples told them something or the apostles told them something, their disciples would not be able to do that. So the true deeds and the true kindness and the true compassion, true love of Jesus is pretty much, what somebody told somebody to somebody. That is what it is. Consistency is there? Yes, it is true. But that's really what it is. So that is pretty much what Jesus was doing. When we look at the Buddhist saints and the Hindu saints and all of them, their mystics, there is no records of what they did. Some of the teachings were recorded by the disciples, but in fact what they do, there is no recording of it. See, I have seen miracles that were performed, by mystics, Hindu mystics in India. In fact, I was even made a part of those miracles. I participated in those miracles. But is there a record of it? People can read and go, wow. No. When I confronted a mystique and shared with her what I just encountered by way of one of her miracles, she completely went blank. She was totally blank. And then she smiles and nods her head, that's all. That's all there is to it. Because you see, an altruistic act of her kindness, of her compassion, manifests as a miracle without even she being aware of it.
Wow.
You see? And I was in the middle of at least 2 or 3 of them. Incredible miracles.
When you say you're in the middle, what does that mean?
I was a part of those miracles.
In what?
I was an instrument.
What did you do?
Here, this woman, we ran out of food. We were kind of giving away free food to everybody. And I was one of the people who were, one of the organizers, and I was in charge of certain activities, of serving food, of bringing it from the kitchen and serving to the people. And we ran out of food when there were over 1,000 people still left. I just prayed. There was a lot of people out there. There were children, there were pregnant ladies, there were old people. They don't have food to eat. So I just prayed. And then I went on to doing what I was doing. So since I did not have any dishes coming from the kitchen, to the service line, then I instructed the volunteers to let's go take all those dishes and wash them. Take them to the place where we need to wash. And we went to lift them up. Every one of them were heavy.
Every one of them what?
Were heavy with food.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
It's incredible.
Yeah. And we had plenty of food to feed everybody. And they were pans and pots and it was completely empty. We were supposed to take it and wash it. And when I went to tell her that,
She just smiles. She knew something.
she didn't even smile. She just went blank. What are you talking about? That kind of a blankness. Then she smiled. That's about it. But I was so excited, that I had been
yeah.
part of this miracle. And this is not the only time. I've seen other times it's amazingly beautiful miracles, but in all of them they knew nothing.
Well, that's when the Lord's really working through you, all right.
Yeah, they knew nothing about it. So that's really what the true altruism is like. That's what this Hindu saint was saying. When you are being altruistic, God is working through you, not you. You see?
So we all need to strive for that. And we
Yeah.
can accomplish everything.
Yeah. And so when we become still to that extent, yes. See, what stands in the way of doing that is our ego. Because it is the ego is what told me, guess what, the miracle took place. And there is this mystic who is sitting out there, and it was her birthday, and people were celebrating her birthday, and she had done an incredible miracle, altruistic miracle. She doesn't even know what was going on. So what gave me that awareness of what went on is not, my altruism, but it's my ego. And my ego made me go and tell her, so that, that's my way of tempting her,
So she
to become aware of it. And she was not even interested in that awareness. She was not even interested in that awareness.
Is that an example of stillness?
That is the example of the quietude of the soul, stillness. Unaffected by anything that goes around you. Anything.
Now, is she an older woman? Because it looks like it would take you a long time to get there.
She was exactly my age.
Oh.
She is actually a few months younger than me. And this happened about 20 years ago. 20 years ago exactly. That was her 50th birthday. Young woman. It's the same thing even when Padre Pio, you see, Padre Pio has a charism, which is absolutely incredible charism he was blessed with. And that is called in Christianity collocation. In other words, you would be doing your thing by yourself and all of that. God takes you, the person that you are, and He plants you in another place to do something by you. And He can do this in many places at one time. You see, but you are there in your own place without even the awareness of doing all of these.
So you may be acting altruistically
Yeah.
and achieving
You're not
goals.
doing anything. You
Right.
really are not doing anything.
But even when you're doing this, you're not aware of it.
No, God is doing it. Why? You're not being aware of anything.
Mm-hmm.
When the co-location is taking place, you don't know anything that's going on. But you see, those mystics are there, and here I'm sharing those experiences with you. But I tell you, just go up and down India from north to south, east to west, there isn't a single record of any of these anywhere. You see, that is true altruism. See, when you become that altruistic, then God is going to use you. Otherwise you're going to remain so alert to see what is going on. As long as you don't have that quietude of the soul, God is not going to use you. See, that quietude of the soul is absolutely necessary so he can start giving you the charisms and the blessings and the graces and all of that, so that he could exercise his own altruism through you without your ego or your intellect being a part of it. So when we talk about the quietude of the soul, this is another extent of what it means. See? And when you develop that quietude of the soul, loving yourself becomes very easy. See, because when you just go there and when you stand in the mirror and you just tell them, Jeannie, I love you, what are you doing? Everything is controlled by your ego. I'm doing this because it makes me feel good. I'm doing this because I feel loved by me. Does quietude of the soul has anything to do with it?
No.
Yeah.
So, the beauty in all of these is let Jesus become the emotion within you. To the extent you don't even have emotions of your own. The only emotions are the emotions of Jesus you manifest. You see, when Jesus says, do this in my name, he's not saying, okay, in the name of Jesus I'm doing it. That's not what it is. Let him do it from within you. The quietude of your soul becomes so effective. Only Jesus manifests through you. Everything else about you is totally quiet. It's empty. No expectations, nothing. No desires. All we are required to do is, have compassion, have mercy, love. That's all. That is all. The rest is the work of Jesus. That is spirituality in fullness.
I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, very famous person who went around helping the homeless. What is her name?
Mother Teresa?
Yeah, to Mother Teresa. Do you think she had quietude of the soul?
I'll give you one example. A reporter from UK, I think, I forgot the name of that agency, she worked for. She went and asked Mother Teresa, how could you touch these lepers? How could you do it? And you know what she turned around and told her?
Only through God. Oh, no.
If it is entirely up to Mother Teresa, I wouldn't touch a leper even if you give me 1,000 pounds. That's what she said. What was she saying was it was not actually Mother Teresa doing all of that.
Is that quietude?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the emotions of God, it's the compassion of God, it's the mercy of God, the love of God from within where it just flows and flows and flows. In fact, it overflows. That's what it is. So Mother Teresa is no longer in control. You know, even the 1,000 pounds he gave is not going to entice her to do whatever she does or whatever she doesn't do. Meaningless. See, there is a story. I don't know if it is recorded or not, but I heard the story from the priest who went with Mother Teresa when this incident happened. You know, in the early days, before the mission, you know, about the time the mission got started, Mother Teresa goes around, you know, looking for people to help. You know, food, money, whatever it is. So, I mean, here in Calcutta, which is a predominantly a Hindu city, and she is going from door to door to meet with people. And, you know, shops, any vendors, any rich people, she will go. And mind you, a lot of these people are Muslims and Hindus. Okay, so here she went in front of a shop, which is the storekeeper was a Hindu, and he was sitting there behind the cash register, and she walks up to her and she pleads to help the poor that she's helping. And there she is in a white, beautiful attire, and this man, he was chewing, and with a mouthful of, you know, saliva, she just threw everything at her face and told her to get out. You know, and there she was standing there, is dripping down her face, dripping on her sari, and it was complete mess and all of that. And you know what she said?
I don't know.
She said, "Praise God, that is for me. Now do something for my poor." That man, I mean, look at the transformation of God here. He became one of the biggest benefactors of our ministry after that.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. That's how God does things. That's how God manifested through Mother Teresa.
See, God even used him. Now, I could never be that mean,
Yeah.
but the transformation that took place, now this person is a real blessing for her whole mission
Yeah.
through the activity of God.
Yeah. You know.
I want to tell you something that Rick did.
Mhm.
Meant a great deal to me.
Uh-huh.
When COVID was rampant and there were people on ventilators and therefore they couldn't have anyone, family or anyone come in. And Rick went from person to person saying the rosary.
Mm-hmm.
And did you also talk to them or pray for them?
Some of them that weren't on ventilators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he went where nobody else would go
Yeah.
because they were so sick.
So we wouldn't let outside family members in.
Yeah, inside the hospital anyway, inside the building.
And that's why Rick went,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they wouldn't let anybody else come,
Yeah.
but they would let Rick come.
Yeah, it's a beautiful altruistic part of Rick. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
You
we
know-
got paid.
You got paid for that also.
You were
now.
on salary.
Yeah, so I was
But you
working
weren't-
anyway. So
You weren't paid for
You paid
each
to do
person
that?
you saw.
But I had time and I was allowed to go in there and I was dressed for it, so
See,
I
but
just
here
couldn't leave
is
somebody alone.
here is how the ego played a role in your altruism. You remember what you did, and you were able to talk about it to other people. You remember how you felt. You remember all of those things. See, this is when your own ego interfered with your altruism. Do you see that? If you are a
The
spiritual
blessing would have been
person,
if I didn't know it and I wandered around and I did things and people said, "Well, thanks, Rick. I don't know what you're talking about."
yeah, I mean, had
That's
you,
what we need.
yeah, we need to kind of mature to that extent. When we mature to that extent, then God can freely operate from within you. Just imagine how many people will benefit when you become like that. See, when we turn out to be people, who really when our altruism is free of the influence of our own ego, or even the influence of other people's ego towards us, see how God can use you. Think about it.
Anthony, do you feel that way almost all the time?
Do I feel that way?
The quietude and the things that come out of that.
Honestly, Janie, I don't know. Okay? When I say I don't know, does it mean I have the quietude? Only God knows. I don't. So whether I have an answer for that, I really don't have an answer for that. To my awareness, whether I'm getting there or not, I'm not even aware of that. But I am made aware when I'm not. In other words, when my ego is active, I'm made aware. When I have selfish ideas coming up, when I'm being altruistic, I'm made aware of that. I'm grateful for that. So I'm more aware of what I'm not doing right. Whether when I'm being under the influence, so to speak. I have that awareness. Whether I'm not under the influence, I don't have that awareness.
I can tell quietude is so central to you.
Yeah.
Is there any particular way you can nurture that?
The only way you can nurture that is by way of prayers. By way of the awareness of the presence of God. When your entire focus is on God, the quietude of the soul becomes very natural.